measure what matters, right? So today we're going to be talking about the AUM pipeline dashboard, which is a really exciting new product release on Snappy Kraken. It just came out recently. And it's pretty cool that Jake's here because I can tell you all kinds of cool things about this, but Jake is part of the team that built this thing, that designed it, built it, and brought it to life. So we're going to talk through about what it is, why it's valuable, talk through some use cases, and then we'll even do a live demo. So if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to see specific to the AUM pipeline dashboard, this is the time because we got Jake here and we will stay and answer any questions you have. So let's jump into it. I guess one thing I will say right beforehand is if you do have specific questions you'd like us to answer, putting those in the Q&A is the best way to make that happen. You know, we will take a look at the chat, make sure we get everything, but stuff can get buried in there. If you put it in the Q&A, we will definitely see it, and that'd be helpful. Cool. So let's dive in. You ready, Jake?
Let's do it.
Okay. So what is this thing, right? AUM pipeline dashboard looks pretty cool. We've got a visual of it right here. This is a direct screenshot from the platform where it is live right now. And you can choose a date range. We've got total pipeline, investable assets. We got engaged pipeline, this pipeline view showing you how prospects and AUM are moving through. A lot of cool things going on here. Jake, do you want to tell us a little bit about what is this thing? Why did we build it? And we'll talk about why it's valuable in a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've heard me speak or you've been on calls with me before, I always say how, you know, our industry's marketing technologies don't communicate value and impact in quite the same way as other industries. Like in e-commerce, for example, you know, marketing technology, it's really easy to say, you know, you ran this campaign, it drove this many sales on your web store. You know, you've sold this many hats. It's a lot more challenging in our industry. You know, you can't so directly translate a campaign to, you know, how much your book of business grew. But we really feel like you deserve that level of revenue-oriented information, because otherwise, how do you know the impact of your marketing? You know, you send out a campaign, it can't just feel like a black box. So the report is really, the AUM pipeline report is kind of putting a visual structure to your marketing that translates you know, your client lifecycle from lead all the way at the top of the funnel down to an engaged client, and even beyond to a client who may generate a referral for you. So you can see that progression and you can tie it back to the actions that Snappy Kraken facilitates for you. And you can do all of that within a monetary context by looking at projected assets for each contact in each stage of your pipeline.
Yeah, this is really cool. And we use HubSpot as a company, and there is reports built into HubSpot, and we can piece those together and do all kinds of things. But there's nothing like this, like just this simple dashboard you can pull up that is ready to go, that has all this information laid out for you in a really easy way. So as a marketer, I'm kind of jealous of the simplicity of this. Like, it's just built, it's right there, it's ready to go. You open up the campaigns app, go to the home, boom, it's right there. And you can see your whole pipeline. Can you talk a little bit about where the data is coming from in this, Jake? Because I think that's probably a big question people have. You first look at this looks really cool, but where does this data come from?
Yeah, there are two categories of data in the pipeline. There are the contacts by stage, and there is the AUM data projections based on investable assets for each contact. So in terms of what stage each contact is in, you can configure your pipeline to associate each stage with one or more contact groups on the platform. So if you want to take cold leads, for example, you want that to be any prospect, any contact that's in a group called prospect, or any contact that's in a group called lead, or any contact that's in a group called event attendees. And you want to also combine that with engagement data. So cold would be low engagement, cold opportunity score contacts. That can be configured, and that's all configured using our dynamic group capabilities. So you probably have seen or heard about how we can create groups and automatically add contacts to groups when they match certain criteria called match filters. Each stage has its own dynamic group associated with it. So you have complete control over how contacts end up in each of these stages. That's the bottom line.
You can like basically set up these different groups and configure your pipeline because each stage is associated to a different group.
Yeah, like if in your CRM you have 20 different groups, you can take 5 of those groups and tie them to the leads stage. You can take 3 of them and tie them to the prospect stage. You can take 10 of them and tie them to the client stage. So you're basically connecting CRM tagging and other engagement data to each stage. So you can have this automated dynamic flow of contacts from top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel.
It's flexible. You can set it up to match your pipeline as it is, or, we kind of have this default view based on cold leads, warm prospects, hot and cold prospects, and clients. That would be a really simple way to build out a pipeline if you don't currently have one and use that. And I think the prospects, just that visualization alone is really cool, right? So you can now see, instead of like, I have this 5,000 person prospect list with however many people on it, and every now and then some of them reach out and become clients. Now you have this like concrete progression showing the pipeline of people moving through as you build trust, right? As you build relationship with them and they engage more. That's them moving through the pipeline until they become a client. So that's one piece of it, is those prospect numbers where you see cold leads, 12,500 people, warm prospects, 471 people. What about the revenue data?
Yeah, so the estimated assets, that's the other category of data, and that's how we're able to create these projections for each stage, and including engaged pipeline. And we're even trying to figure out a way to do forecasted client assets based on current conversion rates. The source of that data is multifaceted. So today, the way that we're getting that data in is first and foremost from lead sources. So if you're connecting lead sources to Snappy Kraken, they will typically be sending, along with the contact data, financial data. Included in that financial data should be estimated assets. Snappy Kraken is able to parse that information and then store it and then aggregate it through your pipeline view. You can also generate this data using Enrichment, and Catchlight is our preferred partner for Enrichment today. We do see Enrichment evolving and becoming kind of a more flexible capability on our platform. But if you are missing investable assets projections for a contact, you can enrich that stage or that contact and get that missing data point, so it gets added to the pipeline. So those are the two sources. We're looking at making so you can bring that data in from the CRM if you have it, or from your data lake if you have it. But if you just think about the wealth management marketing ecosystem, and how contacts, prospects end up in your pipeline, in the very first place, they are coming from lead sources, or they're coming up through events that you're running, and then you're able to enrich those contacts to get data that you didn't get from the lead provider.
Cool. So some of these leads, as they're coming in, they come with data, basically, right? You get it from Smart Asset, wherever you're getting leads, and it's going to have some financial data like estimated assets that comes along with that lead, and that will get added in automatically in Snappy Kraken. So that is one way you can get that data. The other way is through data enrichment like Catchlight. There's a couple of questions that popped up as we were talking about this, just on, do you have to use Catchlight? Actually, let me pull them up so I can see this. Are you able?
Yeah, I can see them too, Mike. So if you want to keep the screen share in focus. I see a couple of you have asked, are you only able to use this if you have Catchlight? The answer to that is no. You will still be able to have a pipeline view without Catchlight. You'll even be able to bring in investable assets data without Catchlight through lead source integrations. So long as your lead sources are sending in AUM data or investable assets data, that will get aggregated and summated within the pipeline. Yeah, we're very keen on making it so that enrichment is like an augmentation, but not a requirement. But we do see enrichment as like a vital piece of our platform increasingly, because the more data you have, the more effective your marketing is. And that deserves an office hours of its own.
I know it does. Yeah, that's a good point. I think, maybe one of the key things to talk about here too is Catchlight's definitely not required, but it is a huge enhancement, right? Or data enrichment in general. That said, I don't think everybody's necessarily like, as you can see in this, whoops, went too far. Moving my mouse and I clicked by accident. But as you can see in that cold leads, like that cold leads pipeline stage is not enriched, right? So you could go and enrich all of those, but I think the way that people are probably going to use this is enriching some of those later stages. You have any thoughts on that, Jake?
Yeah, it's a good flag. Yeah, when it comes to enrichment, you may have tens of thousands of leads. You may be just buying bulk leads. You really don't want to enrich all of those, because many of them may be junk. Many of them may already have other advisors, or many of them, may not really be in the market. However, what Snappy Kraken does really well is it gauges engagement of leads, and that then moves those leads into farther along stages of your pipeline. So once they get to, the hot and gold prospect stage, because they've entered a particular group, or they have shown a ton of recent engagement, they're opening up your emails, clicking your emails, submitting a form, they become a really good candidate for enrichment. That's the type of level of a contact within the life cycle that you'll want to know how much investable assets they have to offer, so that you can focus your kind of more tactical, like hand-on-hand, communication and outreach accordingly.
Yeah, that's kind of showing your immediate opportunity as well, right? We know it takes time to build trust with people from, being a cold lead all the way to a client. But people who are already engaged, who are in that kind of hot and gold prospects, those are people that, they might book a meeting tomorrow. You know what I mean? They might book a meeting today. They might book a meeting weeks or months from now, but they are engaged. And so being able to see like what's the potential there is really valuable. And that kind of plays into, some of what you were talking about, being able to forecast some incoming client AUM based on your conversion metrics, which is something I know we're working on. Very exciting. So let's keep this going. I think, we're talking about a lot of different things with this pipeline and some of the views that it gives you. I think one of the most exciting things it lets you do is get really tactical on moving people through the pipeline, right? So again, instead of just having this like huge prospect list with no idea of like, where people are in the life cycle stage from cold lead to client, now you have this like concrete visibility. I have this many cold leads and this many warm prospects. And I can start to think, what campaign am I going to launch to move people from cold leads to warm prospects, from hot and gold prospects to clients? And these are going to be different types of campaigns. And because you have that selected date range that you can choose, you can start to launch these campaigns and then see how they are impacting people moving through the pipeline. So you can see those prospect numbers, right? So like, let's say today I come into my pipeline, like, man, that's a lot of cold leads. Maybe we should launch some of those cold leads, Jake. What do you think? Start to move some of them over to, to being a warm prospect, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a lot of like instant lead engagement campaigns for different types of leads coming from different sources. So, the vision here, if you can extrapolate from where we are today, is now that we have a better, life cycle stage based segmentation, we can get, these campaign recommendations in front of you. And so, cold leads, maybe a dozen different campaigns for different sub segments of your cold, of that group, of that 12,000. Warm prospects may be, a more engagement based, like let's get a meeting booked. You're doing less like soft nurturing and more aggressive, I'm here for you when you're ready. I know you're in the market. Um, Same goes for hot and gold prospects, perhaps a little bit more discovery oriented because you're ready to get them on a call to understand their specific pain points and the services that they're looking for. And then, clients is more of a referral opportunity as well.
Yeah. So you can start moving people through with these targeted campaigns, which there's tons of to choose from. And then by using that selected date range, you can see the movement that happens, right? So let's say we launched a campaign today, and then 2 weeks from now, I come back into my dashboard, I look at the last 2 weeks, and I can start to see these numbers moving. And that's what those green numbers are, right? So the green number is right to the right. See if I can get this here. So you can see my cursor moving, but that plus 425 next to the 12,500 is showing you within that selected date range what was the movement. This new prospects, this many new cold leads came in, this many 55 cold leads turned into warm prospects, and so on, right? So it's a really valuable tool to get really tactical with your marketing and actually know what's working.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like our whole goal here is you're not just looking at campaigns, which we think we do really, really well. You're also looking at the effect of those campaigns in terms that make sense within, your firm and can be kind of communicated to your teams even and other advisors you work with, or, if you're a marketing operator sitting on this call and you're looking to like justify certain or rationalize or kind of point to the effect of the work that you're doing, the AUM pipeline is perfect for that. You can literally see how your marketing pipeline is progressing, both on the enterprise level, in aggregate, and advisor.
Yeah. And it's actually a really good segue into talking about why it is so valuable, right? Because right now, most marketing platforms are just showing you clicks and opens, which is really valuable data, right? When I launch a campaign, I definitely want to know how many people opened it, how many people clicked, but it's kind of limited what I can do with that data and what that data can really tell me, right? It's not telling me anything about how many meetings are booked, how many, how people are moving through the pipeline, how many people are becoming clients, or anything related to AUM in dollars, right? So those engagement metrics, clicks and opens, only give us so much. And this is really taking it to the next level of being able to see the numbers that you care about in a really concrete way. When you're showing this to people right now, Jay, because I know you're doing demos of this on sales calls, you're showing this to small and large firms. What are people excited about when, let's say they currently only have these engagement metrics? When they start thinking about being able to build out this type of reporting dashboard or just have that ready to go really for their firm, what are they getting excited about?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, if we're talking in like a large organization managing marketing for dozens of advisors working, individually, or if we're talking about an individual advisor. For an enterprise, it's the ability to see, which advisors are top performing across your network in terms of AUM, like how much AUM is in their pipeline. It also helps you see lead source. Our plan is once we standardize our lead source a little bit further, we'll be able to filter the pipeline by lead source. You can see how different lead sources have different conversion rates, and you can optimize investment in lead sources accordingly. So clearly a lot of value on the enterprise level, but I think that also, dovetails into the advisor value prop. I think advisors deserve to know which lead sources are worth investing in. Nothing, I think, I've never heard of a more frustrated advisor than one who just buys leads from smartass. No, I shouldn't say smartass, but from lead sources consistently and don't see those leads convert. So this literally gives you direct line of sight into uh, what leads, what your pipeline could look like by different lead sources. And that's really helpful. Or what it looks like based on different campaigns, which campaigns are driving the most conversion from stage to stage.
Yeah, and actually what you just said made me think too, it can actually be a really good problem solving tool, because let's imagine you are in that situation where you're buying lots of leads, which is expensive, and they're not turning into clients, and you have no idea why. And you're trying a bunch of stuff, but you don't really have that clarity of being able to look at a pipeline. And if you were able to see the pipeline of like cold leads and how people progress through, take all those leads that you're buying, put them into the pipeline, and be able to see where engagement is happening or not happening, then you can start to think like, okay, maybe I need to do more campaigns like this, or you can start running tests that you can see the results of in a really concrete way. So it can also help you, I think, just do better marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. You need, it's hard to just translate clicks and views, to what marketing works and doesn't. But showing it in terms of money and AUM growth or investable assets growth does. It's really just all about structuring the pipeline in a way that you can make sense of.
Yeah, cool. So let's dive into some of the use cases. To be honest, we've already talked through a lot of these because we're so excited about this thing. We've already talked through most of these use cases, I think. I'll kind of give an overview here, and then we're going to dive into a live demo where we can actually start to see some of this stuff in action. So again, this allows you to see where dollars are sit, right? Focus your marketing efforts based on where AUM and prospects are pooling in your pipeline. Where's the opportunity? You can start moving them forward with targeted campaigns. You can track that effectiveness over time and be able to attribute what's working, right? Using that selected date range to see, okay, I launched this campaign to this stage, and now I'm seeing movement from that stage to the next stage. Very cool. We start reporting this in all these outcomes in dollars, right? Instead of just engagement metrics, which is, that's what people want to hear, right? The leaders, anybody that you need to report this to, that you're reporting metrics you're responsible on. If you can report the dollars and AUM versus opens and clicks, that's huge. One we haven't touched on yet is advisor adoption. And I think this is a tool that could definitely help with advisor adoption. I think you were actually talking about this a little bit on the last slide, Jake, but do you want to talk through advisor adoption a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Advisors deserve to understand what their marketing is doing for them. It's too opaque with other platforms, and previously with Snappy Kraken, we feel the need to, we love anecdotes, and we love looking at our data. We love seeing form submissions, massive amounts of page views and clicks and email opens, and we know that we're driving value. I mean, we hear stories literally every day that our clients are getting clients from our platform. But it should be abundantly clear the value that we're providing. You go into Snappy Kraken, you see this visual, clear representation of marketing, which is the pipeline. It's, a pipeline is this physical representation of your client lifecycle. And so we know that seeing that marketing value representation will drive marketing action. And if you're an enterprise, if you're trying to kind of get advisors on board, you can literally show them like, look, this is what you'll have as a result of adopting marketing tools. You'll literally have a pipeline that you can track assets as it moves from leads all the way through. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very effective vehicle at driving advisor adoption and also just motivating, consistent usage of marketing tools.
Yeah, I think it's super motivating. I know, myself as a marketer, when I'm, putting campaigns together and I have no idea if they're working or not, it gets kind of old, right? You're just launching stuff, maybe to crickets, you're not really sure what's effective and what's not, and it's not very motivating. But when you can see, okay, I launched this campaign and it drove this many clicks and opens, but also this many people into the next stage of the pipeline and some booked meetings and, helped win some clients. That is incredibly motivating. And it makes me want to go do some more marketing, right? And then you can see the whole value of your pipeline and you start thinking like, man, okay, I keep launching these campaigns. What's going to happen? You're going to keep moving people through the pipeline and keep winning clients. So super exciting. Love this tool. I think we should look at it live in action. What do you think, Jake? You ready to do a demo?
Yep.
Cool. So let's dive into it. Jake's going to show you. Well, first of all, I saw Alex asked a question about where is this? And you're going to see that right now. So Jake will show us in the campaigns app where it lives, how to set it up, all of these cool things. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Jake can.
I'm going to share mine. Okay. So, Mike, who asked that question?
Alex.
Alex. Okay. So Alex, this view here is the homepage of your marketing workspace on Snappy Kraken. So you just get here by clicking the Snappy logo. We are going to be adding a dedicated dashboard page so you can see it a little bit more clearly, but you just get here, let's say you're in the library, you can go back and you're in your dashboard.
It's also the first page you'll show up on if you log into the campaigns app, right?
That's right. If you just log in directly, you'll go here. Now, this is the AUM pipeline. It's the first dashboard you see. It's above your most recent campaign performance and your recent activity and your contact growth. We decided to put it up here because you should see what your pipeline looks like when you log into Snappy Kraken, as well as how much you have in your pipeline. My pipeline has a handful of stages on, for many advisors, you'll just see these first 4 stages. Enterprises can do some custom configuration and completely define what their pipeline looks like, have as many as 10 stages in it. As you can see here, I have 683 cold leads, 124 warm prospects, 184 hot and gold prospects, 225 clients, and 54 VIP clients. Let's dive into how these numbers are surfaced. So you can click in to any one of these stages, and here I'm in my warm prospect stage, and I can see all of the contacts in this stage. These contacts correspond to a group called warm prospects pipeline, and this group is just simply tagged. It's any contact who's in a group called prospects and warm engagement. But if I want to change it up, let's say I also want this to pull from a group called leads. And you know what? Maybe I'm just going to also have it pull from a group called, smart asset leads. So going back into this group here, all I need to do is check those groups, and now it'll pull from any contacts who are in those groups as well. So my pipeline for warm prospects is pulling from those additional groups. So essentially, we're creating a through line from your CRM or from your lead sources through to your pipeline. Just basically an hour or so of setup. When you first create your account, you'll have this incredible visualization of your marketing pipeline forever. The AUM data, as we mentioned before, and I should stop saying AUM, it's really just investable assets estimates, which is a leading indicator of potential AUM once you book that client. That is coming from either the lead source through lead capture, which I'll jump into just to debrief on that, or enrichment. So if at any point I click enrich assets here and you have Catchlight connected, you'll fill in the gaps of any contacts who you don't have investable assets data on. It won't enrich contacts who you already have investable assets data on. We don't want you doing unnecessary enrichment from this context. Lead capture, very cool feature. Basically, you can just send leads from a third-party source into Snappy Kraken. Any third-party source works the way we've designed this because we're using email notification, AI-based parsing for those notifications. So what you'll start to see here at the pipeline is we'll notice when there are kind of facets missing in your pipeline. Like if you're lagging on leads, we'll introduce lead sources for you to connect with. If you're lagging on prospect nurturing, we'll recommend campaigns for that. If we're noticing high value clients because they're hyper engaged, we'll give you a referral campaign to send to those clients. So we are always trying to stay a step ahead. We will get better and better over time at making recommendations. For now, it's a little bit of a disconnect, but trust me, by Q1 and next year, we're going to have some of these recommendations in place, powered by AI, and it all kind of flows from the pipeline. So we're just really excited to be the first company to start to show, the effect of your marketing in terms of investable assets and revenue. It's a big milestone for the industry.
Yeah, this is really cool. And I think the recommendations thing is going to be awesome. But honestly, even without that, just having the data here is a game changer. And I think just starting to think through like the last office hours, the first one that we did with Angel was all about content, right? Q4 content. And we talked through a lot of content that would be really great to launch to some of these specific stages. We talked about a lead gen campaign, hidden tax opportunities that's being fully updated in Q4. It's one of the highest, actually it is the highest performing on our platform. And a lot of people will take a lead gen campaign and yes, use it to generate new leads. So you would see that cold leads number start to increase, but also launch the lead gen campaign to their prospect list. So right, a lead gen campaign would be a really good one to launch to your cold leads stage because it includes promotional emails. So you can send this lead magnet, this valuable resource out to your cold leads, give them something to start engaging with. And that would be one way to start moving people through the pipeline. And we have a lot of different content divided up into these different content types, lead gen, prospect engagement, and so on, so that you can start to think through what are different campaigns that I want to launch to these different stages.
Yep. You can, you want to get noticed by leads, go in here, and I'll just show how you can subscribe that stage. Anytime a contact comes into warm prospects or cold leads, I got auto subscribe on here and they'll go out, that campaign will go out to them.
Yeah.
So it's lifecycle based marketing rather than just like spray and pray, let's send our newsletter out to everyone.
Yeah, 100%. Really cool. Great demo, Jake. We got a couple questions that we're going to answer right now. If you do have any additional questions, please drop them in the Q&A, drop them in the chat, and we'll take the time to answer them now. If we got to do another quick demo, we can do that too. So a couple of questions. Brianna asked, is this available in enterprise accounts?
Brianna, the answer to that is yes, depending on, your enterprise relationship. So, that, for all new enterprises who have signed up, it is kind of part of our enterprise platform. It's something we configure for you during onboarding. I know that, we're discussing it with your team, Brianna, and we're working to make it happen for AE. But we should discuss what AE's pipeline will look like, to get ahead of that, so we can start the configuration process and make sure we have all the data we need, and that advisors are trained or are aware of what the pipeline will look like, because how that connects to the CRM groups that they're bringing in.
Cool. So you're talking about Alex's question about AE.
Yeah, well, Brianna's on the enterprise side at AE. So
Oh, got it. Okay, cool. Sweet. And then the other question is, if using the lead capture to bring in data, do you have to have a template to be filled out to make sure it maps correctly?
It's a good question. We've tested extensively with different types of lead sources and how they structure their notifications. We're using like LLM grade attribute extraction. So it's not like a rule-based, like, look for this word. It's like more of a kind of state-of-the-art level parsing. But Brianna, if you've noticed any kind of inconsistencies in the past by testing, let us know. You may also just be asking from the standpoint of your own custom lead notifications that you're sending. In which case I'd say to you that if you structure with just simple like key value pair, like financial goals, data, investable assets, data, AUM, data, net worth, data, our system will be able to handle it.
Okay, so doesn't look like we have any other questions. I'm going to share my screen again real quick, just to say next office hours is not going to be in 2 weeks. It's going to be in 3 weeks, because 2 weeks from today is Thanksgiving. So we'll be eating all that tasty Thanksgiving food we were talking about. But the next one's going to be really exciting. We have Trust and Will join us, Andreas from Trust and Will. We ran a webinar with Trust and Will a month and a half, 2 months ago or so, and we got so many questions on estate planning, and the legality of it, the type of content that works well, even the legality of not even just doing estate planning, but sharing content around it and how that works with lawyer relationships and so on. So we didn't have time to answer all of them on the webinar. Honestly, it was a large amount of questions. So we're going to dive deep in this webinar, talk about estate planning rules, results, and some real world wins, like what's working to have conversations around estate planning right now. So that was going to be really exciting. You can sign up using that QR code, or even on the website right in the top, there's a little office hours that you can click on it and go sign up for that. Outside of that, we're really happy that you guys came. Thanks for joining us. We're excited about the AUM Pipeline Dashboard. We're excited to see what you guys do with the AUM Pipeline Dashboard. And Jake, thanks for joining. Anything else to say?
Mike, thank you. Yeah, if anyone has additional recommendation ideas, we're currently looking at that a lot. So if there are audiences who you think may map to a particular piece of content, and you want that to happen automatically for you while you sleep, or more likely if you're servicing your clients and you just want to focus on them, reach out to the product team at Snappy Kraken, give us that feedback. We're always open to it. Well, yeah, Mike, thanks for leading this. Great to be on.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you,
great day. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you in a few weeks.